Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Shade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I have a friend, fellow life coach, mastermind colleague on Zoom with me today to tell you her dating after divorce story. Welcome, Jessica McKinley. She is a life and business coach for women business owners. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. Can I just tell you, I love to share my story about dating after divorce. And we knew each other for a little while before I actually even knew what your niche was and before you knew that I was divorced and anything about that. And then we were like, wait, what? Like,
I know. I remember we were sitting that was Cabo. Was that Cabo?
No, it was Kentucky. It was like the second time we had already known each other for like a whole round.
Yeah. And it was like, you're divorced? Like, wait, what? You need to come on. And then you're like happily repartnered. What is happening? You need to come on my podcast. So good. So tell the listeners kind of like what you do, because you're a life and business coach for women business owners, but I know that there's like a lot of juiciness that you have in your niche and in your work.
Yeah. I mean, we know the word life coach just means so many different things to so many different people. And even in the space of business coach, I don't really feel like I fit that mold at all. I say that what I do is a hybrid of life and business coaching. I do work with all women who own businesses, but specifically, I feel like I love the math and organization part of it mixed with the feelings and the mindset. So I help people organize their time, money, and their mind drama. And yeah, it's a very, very blended program of processes and tools, plus just rewiring the way you think about time and money and yourself as a CEO.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. We all need that. I need it.
Yeah.
When you said mind drama, I'm like, yep, that's what it's like to run a business. And on top of all of that, you are 2 weeks away from getting remarried.
Yep.
And what else is happening?
I am also about 2 months away from giving birth to my second child and first daughter with my soon-to-be husband.
Oh my gosh.
All the things.
All of it. I know. That's why we were so excited. We were like, do we do this like after you get married?
After the baby, before the baby, after the wedding.
But like, this is your fairy tale ending after divorce. You're literally living your fairy tale ending.
You know what's so crazy is that yesterday I came out of the shower and I was like, babe, I think we should look at property in Hawaii. And he's like, what? We just bought a house, to put some context. Like, we just bought a house, whatever. And he's like, well, we're never going to get approved for a second mortgage. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what's happening? Are you having a crisis? And I was like, my crisis is that we had so many dreams for ourselves coupling up together and for building a life together when we started dating about 2.5 or so years ago. And we literally created all of them in the R line. We call that in coaching, right? I don't know if you use coaching terms on here, but
yeah, the result line.
The results
you want. Yeah.
We created all of it in a matter of 2.5 years. We bought a house in our dream town in New York and Long Island. We have a very blended, amazing, healthy co-parenting relationship with my ex-husband and his fiance, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. And we have scaled our finances to be exactly kind of where we want them to be. We're starting a family together. We're getting married. It's like all here. And I was just kind of like, wait, we need this. This isn't the end. This is the beginning.
We need new dreams.
We need new dreams.
Yes. I love that. And I recognize that feeling too, because I thought it would take me a lot longer to recover after my divorce. but he didn't. I was like,
Yeah.
I started my business. I met my husband, like my kids, I was like, wait, this is the power of doing the work.
Yes.
It's like the things that seem so far away, the things that you want, they're like, they just start to happen because internally there's that transformation.
Right. Talking about it here, two life coaches here, we make it sound so easy, but God,
No.
I remember just sitting in the misery of that first year, really even the first 2 years, even after I had met Mark, and just being like, thank God I have these coaching tools. Like, thank God.
Yeah.
I could cry just thinking about it right now because it was the most painful thing I ever went through. And just knowing that there wasn't anything wrong with me feeling that pain was a weight off of the experience.
Yeah. All right. So let's back up to the beginning, to the divorce. What happened there?
Oh man, everyone wants it to be simple to explain, right? They want it to be like, what happened? Was there cheating? Was there abuse? Was there, did you just not love each other? What was it? And it wasn't really any of those things. We still did very much love each other, which was part of what made that divorce so painful. My son was 18 months. So we were right in the thick of that, which is its own phase of life. And I think being so sleep deprived and being so like isolated in that space, welcoming or being pregnant right now and thinking about going into that phase of the newborn phase again, I have a lot of trauma around it and thinking about how like babies bring the downfall of everything, right? Because it was a safety mechanism for me to link the two. But I really just feel, if anything, it just exposed what was true that I couldn't ignore, which was that the future that my ex-husband and I wanted to build couldn't have been more different. And that was really it. It's like, I remember even growing up and seeing movies or hearing people say like, love isn't enough for a marriage. And I just remembered being like, well, then you clearly don't know what love is, right? Like from my naive, like super romantic, idealistic self, which I still identify with. I think I am still very romantic and like a hopeless romantic, all those things. But that was it. It's like, we did not partner well together. We weren't complementary in our strengths. We just didn't want the same future. When I think back on it, it's like, that was what was so painful about it, was because it felt very selfish. It felt like, but not just for me, for him too. I felt like we both loved each other. And so we were, for a while, sacrificing ourselves for the sake of the marriage. Both of us, we were sacrificing our own futures and our own happiness for the sake of the success of the marriage.
Yeah. It potentially felt like you didn't have a good reason for it not to be working. Like it's supposed to be working. It should be working.
Should be working. Yeah. We love each other. We are hard workers. We wanted to make this work. We had been through a lot. When we first started dating, I was moving to Spain in 3 months after we started dating. So I really tried to like keep it casual and be like, I'm going to Spain, so let's just have a summer romance type deal. And we ended up doing long distance. And when I say long distance, I mean Spain to New York. And then I moved back, and then Boston to New York for another semester as I finished college. And then Peru to New York. I moved to Peru a couple months after graduating college. And we stayed together through.
The universe was trying to tell you something there.
But what I think that made me love him even more was that he just could handle my independence. He wasn't threatened by it. He was willing to commit. And I think that's what made me very attracted to the idea of marrying him, because I was like, he's willing to do the hard work. Like nothing about our relationship up until this point has been easy. So if we could do long distance for a year and a half, with 6-hour time zones, like what can't we handle? Well, there was a lot.
Yeah. I often tell my clients who are dating, I'm like, we underestimate the differences, how different other people are from us. Like even siblings who grow up in the same home can be universes apart in their dreams, their hopes, their personality, their makeup, where they're going in life.
So true.
And I think we underestimate that so often. Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates, so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
Yeah. And, I know him very well. And still, obviously, when you get divorced from someone that you have a child with, like that relationship is forever. And it was important to me that it was forever as well. And I think in some ways, I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, but it felt like easier to make the decision to get the divorce because I knew he was stuck with me. I didn't want to lose the relationship entirely. I really didn't, because I loved him. And so I knew we'll still have a relationship, but it can be what it's meant to be. We can love each other without expectation, or, well, there's still the expectation of how you're going to show up as a co-parent, right? But
being free to build those separate futures. What was different about the futures you wanted to build? Like, between yours and his?
Yeah, fundamentally different. It wasn't even like location. Like we were both like, okay, I think we'd like to be in New York. We were open to moving to other cities, those types of things. We have very similar values in terms of parenting and in terms of politics and in terms of like religion. Like the main thing, like on paper, we were such a good match. We also knew each other since we were 12. So we went to junior high school together. So we knew each other's backgrounds and all of that. And so there was just a lot that made sense there. But what was so different that I don't think was easy to recognize until we kind of were in our marriage was that, first of all, we got married at 26. Neither of us had been in the career that is now what we know is what we want to do. So we're still trying to find ourselves in a lot of ways. And once we did, it was like, oh, okay, like I want to be an entrepreneur. And even at the time, I wasn't even quite a life coach fully. I was doing fitness coaching, but I knew I wanted to work for myself, and that he couldn't handle. It was very uncomfortable to him to be in the instability of what he thought entrepreneurialism is. And of course, I coach people on that right now about how to like create predictability and stability in your own business with your brain and the way that you think about it and whatnot. So it's ironic, but he just couldn't grasp it. And it made him feel very uncomfortable. And he just felt like I was being selfish because he felt like the realities of the money going up and down was creating his emotional experience. And he felt like that wasn't fair of me to do.
Yeah.
And he also didn't really buy into life coaching. He felt like it was common sense that people didn't have to pay for it. And I had thoughts about that as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
you should believe in me, blah, 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 right? Which now, thankfully, and I've said this to him since we've split, is I feel like I'm so sorry that I put on him the pressure of having to believe in me. Now I just give that to myself, and Mark doesn't have to do any of that work.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a burden that I put on him in our relationship. And I couldn't see it until after we were split.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, if you do have that type of thing where you feel like your relationship is just like the person doesn't believe in your dreams, it's like, yeah, they don't have to actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not their job. It's nice if they do, but that's not their job.
If they do. Totally. Totally. Yeah. And there's a difference between not believing and having doubt and having scarcity, and then also being like, this is bullshit. You should, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. This is BS. I don't know, like you should quit and this is unacceptable. Like that was something that we were going through, which I thought was toxic and not, a relationship that I wanted to do any more thought work on.
Yes.
You can change the thoughts or you can change the circumstances. And I could have changed the thoughts and been happy there, which was a hard pill to swallow. But ultimately, it was going to take so much of my time and energy. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where autonomy, which I'm always encouraging my clients to develop your own autonomy. Like there are these like rules and what's acceptable and what you're allowed to do. You're allowed to change the circumstance if you decide, if you're willing to take responsibility for whatever the outcome is of changing the circumstance. It's all about responsibility. A lot of times we want to keep the rules because we think the rules shield us from the responsibility of the outcome.
Oh yeah. Like, go ahead.
If I follow all the rules that the church gives me or that my parents give me or that society gives me, they say if I follow all these rules, I'll have a good outcome. So if I don't have a good outcome, it's their fault.
Yes.
It's like, it's your fault either way.
I definitely can relate to that. Like I felt that way. Like I did everything right. Like I worked hard, he struggles with alcoholism, my ex, and I stayed with him through all of that. And I loved him through all of that. And he was sober. And then he started drinking again when I was like 9 months pregnant. And all of that, like that wasn't the reason. I think a lot of people the only people that really knew about that wanted to make our divorce about that. Especially my family, like they really wanted it to be about, well, he's an alcoholic and blah, blah, blah. And I just remembered saying to myself all the time, like, no, he's going to be in my life forever. He's the father of my child. I would rather people be confused about me and think that I wasn't willing to do the work and I was just some millennial who quits their marriage than I was willing for my family to label him some alcoholic. And that's why.
Oh, that's so good. I call it the coming up smelling like roses syndrome. And so many divorcees want to come out of the divorce smelling like roses. And I'm like, you cannot. It is not like every decision you make with the desire or the North Star to be seen as being right and innocent will take you down the path of what you don't want.
Yes.
Like so you have to embrace the messiness of it, the ugliness, the dark side, your dark side, your contributions to the scenario, the thoughts and patterns that led you to make those choices. Like you just gotta embrace it. You just gotta be like, yep, here I am. This is me.
Yep.
And that gives you the opportunity to like make choices and grow and transform those things. But if we're pointing fingers the whole time, and I point plenty of fingers at my ex, like, listen, I did not take 100% responsibility for everything that happened in the marriage. I take my responsibility, but I'm like, listen, he was like all this.
Yeah.
In my mind and in my approach to myself and my journey, I'm always like, listen, I was all the way messed up. that caused me to choose that relationship. That caused me to show up in all of these ways in that relationship. Caused me to be in denial, to be super codependent, like a whole lot of things that were all mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, gosh, both me and my ex changed so much in the months following our separation, like so much. I mean, my business skyrocketed when we split. He got super healthy and fit. Like we had started to take care of ourselves in our personal life in a way that we had stopped doing unnecessarily. And we were blaming it on the baby and parenting. And now we were both single parents, and it's harder in a lot of ways. And we still carved out that time. And this is something I need to say because I'm so passionate about it. But I think that what I saw happen a lot as like a single mom in that phase is a single mom with shared custody. So there's a big difference, right? Between like truly a single mom, like on your own. So I need to make that clear. I shared custody. He, from the get-go, had time. Now I had most time, like I had all the in-between hours, but nights we had 50%. But when he was with him, he was at daycare, right? When he was with me, he was with me. And during that time, I saw my friends who were married with young kids jealous. They were like jealous of the space that I got in shared custody. And they were like, honestly, in my darkest times, I find myself fantasizing about divorce so that I can like even just take a nap like I see you do, or even just go out and have a date with Mark. Right? And Mark and I were having so much fun during that phase. And then it was like, I was all on, it felt like I was like living two lives during that phase. Still, sometimes I feel like that. And I was like, there's something wrong with society if women feel like in order to get the minimum amount of space and mental and physical and health self-care for themselves, they need to get divorced to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Or they need to wait until the kids are grown before they can take a nap.
Right.
That is not okay.
That is not okay. And, you know, I even watch myself get confused and slip back into this like mindset of the patriarchy of like, okay, I'm about to have another baby and this one's not going anywhere. This is a full-time parenting situation. I don't know if I'm good at full-time parenting anymore. And I keep saying like, I got really good at being a co-parenting mom. Like I've mastered it. I love it. I like love the type of mom I am when Calvin is there because of the space that I get from him. Yeah. And someone, a coach in our mastermind was peer coaching me on this. And she was like, yeah, but you are still co-parenting with Mark.
Yes.
And so like, why don't you just decide to create the same schedule that works for you just with Mark?
100%.
And I was like I couldn't, it had never even occurred to me that I could advocate for the same amount of space for my child that for me personally is what I've come to see makes me the best mom possible. Because the first 3 years of my son's life, I was with him 24/7 around the clock by myself. My family lives all over. I was trying to and I felt like such a martyr. And I don't want that to be my experience of my daughter.
Yeah. And this is the power of doing the work. I always tell my clients when they're dating and sometimes they have trouble, kind of advocating for themselves in a relationship or speaking up or having boundaries or taking space from the person they're dating. And I'm like, this is the same work you will be doing when you get remarried or repartnered.
Yes.
It is the same work. The life you're living now, if you do this work now, it will only make your next relationship better.
You can't escape
understanding boundaries versus enmeshment, having autonomy, having sovereignty in your life, taking care of your own stuff and your own self-care. I'm like, you're going to need that. Your partner isn't going to become a knight in shining armor who's going to provide self-care for you.
Oh my God. Yeah. I watch my friend who is a dear friend of mine who is dating, and, you know, I'm 34, we're 34, and she desperately wants to find this man, and I can feel the desperation in it. And I think her main thought error is that she won't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that she's not dealing with right now.
Yeah.
That she thinks like it'll just go away when she gets there, because he'll just solve for that emotional, like
the
imbalance.
Angst.
Yeah. The angst.
Some women feel like their partner will solve for their money challenges. Their partner will solve for like their fitness. I have clients who are like, yeah, I want someone who's fit so that he can encourage me to be fit. I'm like, okay. I want someone who is living this life, who goes to all these. I coached a woman one time who was like, I want someone who's into the arts and goes to the opera and goes to the theater. I'm like, how long ago when was the last time you were at the theater? 30 years. She had not been to the theater in 30 years. I wanted a man who went to the theater. I'm like,
isn't it so interesting? It's the same thing. I think, well, for her, like this woman, she makes a lot of money. She's lived her life in a very, a way that is just very independent and like amazing example of what a woman. She's such a catch in all the ways. But I do think there's just this idea of like completion. Like I will feel loved and complete and appreciated. And I'm like, oh girl, that feeling is created by the thought that you are already loved and appreciated and completed. It's like what I was just saying about how my ex-husband, like I put all this pressure on him to believe in me and my business and my dream because I didn't believe in myself.
Yeah.
And the effect that had on our relationship was the opposite. Like I just was so resentful of him nonstop for not believing in me. And then I would like not show up all of the way.
Yeah.
And blame it on him.
Yeah.
So if you believed in me, then I would show up.
So after the divorce, how long were you single before you met Mark, your partner?
Yeah, here's the juice. I not really very much at all. I mean, it's complicated because Mark and I were friends before we started dating. So it wasn't like we went on a date ever. Now, I definitely was not looking to be falling into like the most serious relationship. Like I tried hard to keep him at an arm's length, to not put a label on us. I had very strict boundaries between him and my son, who was very young too. So I leaned on Mark as a friend. And I mean, I talked to him. I mean, all I talked to him about was my divorce and my sadness over the marriage. And Mark and I actually dated in the, like it turned romantic very quickly. Like during the time when I had separated from my ex, but we didn't officially have anything in the works for divorce papers. It's like we had separated, but we were still living together, but we weren't sleeping always at the same house. Sometimes we were though still, and we just didn't really know what the plan was. We were just like separated.
Yeah.
And I found myself quickly falling for Mark and being so freaked out by that. And just, I couldn't give love. Like it felt like I was buffering with
the relationship. Yeah.
For sure. And I wanted to feel happiness. And so I was just like having so much fun with him, but I wasn't processing the grief of what was going on in my marriage. I wasn't really dealing with it at all. And definitely he wasn't dealing with it. So we were just kind of like functioning as parents. And then like, I don't know what he was doing during that time when we weren't together, like nothing, like video games, like he was, totally buffering. We were just like not dealing with it. And then all of a sudden the holidays were coming up. My ex and I had separated in end of August. and the holidays were coming up, Thanksgiving. And I just started to feel sick to my stomach thinking about the idea of not being with Calvin for Thanksgiving, my son. And I couldn't do it. I remember thinking I would rather be in a marriage that I know is wrong for me than be away from Calvin this Thanksgiving. I can recognize it's such a toxic and untrue thought now. But at the time I was just like, I'm unwilling to feel this feeling.
Yeah.
And so I got back together. I ended things with Mark and I said, I need to try and give my marriage one more shot for the sake of my son and for the sake of my family. Within about 3 days of being back together, I knew, I was like, this was just a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But I went, we did Thanksgiving, we did Christmas at my family's house. We got through the holidays, and then his birthday's in January too. So that's like included mid-January, right after his birthday, it ended again, like officially. And I think actually I don't have regrets about doing that because it was such closure. I feel like I really jumped ship pretty dramatically from the marriage and then fell into this relationship that I knew could potentially really be it, and was like so freaked out by that. I mean, I could have destroyed that. I don't know what made him hold on, but I ended things officially. I felt clear at that point, even though it was 10 times more painful to end at that time because it really felt very final. It felt just authentic and real. And I knew I wasn't buffering. It was just,
right. It was always going to be that painful. You were just avoiding it. It wasn't like it was more painful. No.
Yeah.
It was always going to be.
It was just there underneath and I was not looking at it. Yeah.
And I totally get the, like, you, and I don't know all the reasons why, but I know nobody, I don't know anyone who divorces. There's this myth that people just divorce.
I know.
And I'm like, I don't know a single person. It is like so painful. It is like there's so many moving parts. It is so overwhelming. It is such a challenging process.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I don't know a single person who takes divorce lightly, even though the myth is, well, people are just out there just getting divorced. Like, no.
Thank you for saying that. Honestly, I really agree with that because for a lot of other people too, it felt very quick to them because, what they see, and they saw us together for Christmas and saw us out for his birthday. And then all of a sudden, whatever. And my very close friends then saw me pretty quickly spending a lot of time with Mark. Again, I wasn't putting labels on it at all. I mean, you can ask him. I couldn't say I love you.
And you had said you didn't even want. You were like, I don't even know that I want to marry.
Oh, I definitely didn't. The amount of times that I said out loud to him, if you want to get married, and let's end this right now because I can't guarantee and most likely will never want to get married again. Yeah. I said the same thing about having kids, and he didn't have any kids. So, and he's one of those people that was just born to be a dad. Like, I felt this extreme guilt of getting into this relationship with him, being like, am I going to be enough for you? Just without marriage and without a family, and me and my like broken figuring it out self, are you gonna end up getting to 40 and resent me for never getting there? Are you secretly hoping that I'm just gonna like get over it?
Yeah.
And I was so clear from the beginning that I couldn't even think about the future more than a week in advance. And once I started to be able to dream about the future, it was only for my business. I couldn't really think about it for myself or for my family or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, bye, babe. And so it's like, we really need to, I think that if you dating after divorce, my best advice, if I had like one thing, would just be to always communicate where you're at with your partner, and don't try and sugarcoat like where you think you might be if you can't picture that future.
Yeah, 100%. That authentic expression, which requires really knowing yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you said, like on this, call has come from a place of just really, truly knowing who you are. You're like, listen, this doesn't look like everybody else. This is 100% me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think even with the divorce, the way I got divorced too, my family kept being like, I don't know anyone that knows themselves well enough to get divorced based on the reasons that you got divorced.
Yeah.
Which is that like, I knew myself well enough to know so deeply the type of future I wanted to build, the type of future where I wanted to be able to have more time and money now. Whereas my ex had this very traditional American dream vision where, he was getting his MBA when we split at Stern, like very intensive. He was gone all day Saturdays. I was with the baby. It was a lot. And he was like about to be going, and he wanted to, at that point, work for a, financial, what am I thinking? Like an investment banking, which is like crazy hours already. I was complaining about how little we saw each other. Quality time is a big love language of mine, right? And I was just like, I don't want to only see you for an hour before we go to bed.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the relationship that I want. I don't want to be alone with kids. Like,
yeah.
I'm not a stay-at-home mom. That's not who I signed up to be. And I think he did think I would just like fall into the traditional, and
I just laugh because from what I know of you, I'm like, how did he miss all the signals?
I was never like that. I am not Susie Homemaker in any way, shape, or form. So I kept being confused. I'm like, how did I give you the wrong message here? Like, I really don't take responsibility for that. I do think he thought I was just going to change.
Yeah.
And once I had kids, I was just going to want to stay home. And I did not. And that exposed a lot of it. That just was not going to be the case. He resented me for not wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and for not making enough stable income. So it was like, one or the other, which I wasn't.
Which is interesting. My ex was kind of the same way too. It was like, oh, no, you got to do all the things in the house. But anytime he felt any financial stress, it was like, you're not bringing in any money. I'm like,
right. What? Sorry. And when and how am I supposed to be doing all this stuff? Yeah. So it's crazy, but and I know we don't have too much time left, but I do want to talk about the dating part that I think is just.
We'll have to do another episode on dating, specifically on dating. Let's talk about you and Mark and the relationship between the both of you. Like, what is the energy like between the both of you that makes this work?
Ooh, I could you guys, I wish we even had time to bring Mark on the show too, because he's just the best. I mean, I know I'm getting extra romantic because we're getting married in 2 weeks. And I've just been thinking about my vows and all the things. But like, we bought a house together this year, and I was me, like I just said, like, I was like, I'm not a Susie Homemaker, so I don't want the same mistake to happen. I kept just saying like, do you want to buy a house with me? I'm not like the house type. Like, I want to go in, have my office be really nice, and then be working in there. Like, I'm not going to be like cooking and cleaning. I'd rather pay for someone, and I'll pay for it because now make a lot of money. Didn't when I was with my ex, unfortunately. But yeah, we move in. He is just like loves the home projects. And so, I mean, every day he's doing something. Like, he cannot help himself. He just he YouTubed how to be an electrician and a roofer and all these things. And he didn't really have this experience before. His dad is not handy like this. Like, his mom is not like that. He's just a person of his own accord. Like, he is so great. And he is like out there, like just mulching and like he'll be like, Calvin, do you want to come with me to Home Depot so mom can relax and we'll get some flowers and we'll plant. This is his stepson, right? Not even legally yet. And he's just so full of love and with zero expectation for me to be anything.
It sounds like he doesn't expect you to be anything other than exactly who you are.
Right. Which is no expectations, right? Because who I am is constantly evolving. As life coaches, when you do this work, you're changing so rapidly. It's scary for a lot of people. And I don't think that it's scary for Mark. I don't think he's intimidated by that at all.
I love it. That's so nice. Such a gift.
It is such a gift. And I don't even know if I have that to the level that he does. Like, he's so grounded and secure in himself that he's never looking to me to be like, hey, if you could be or do this for the home or for the kids or for whatever, that life would be better for me. And I'm sure he could find plenty of things that he could do that with, and he doesn't. And I even have to take a note from him and be like, oh gosh, wow. Like, there's no reason for me to tell him that, you know, to nag. When you start to live together, it's very easy to see what you perceive to be the other person's flaws. And he just doesn't point out any of my flaws. And I'm so grateful for it. Last year, as a gift to him for Christmas, I wrote down something every day that I appreciate about him. Which was way more a gift to myself than it was to him, because every day I got to actively love him and like brainstorm, like the love brainstorm of him, of like, what do I appreciate about him today? And I just feel it in my body. And then he just received it on Christmas and got that like one big rush of like love and appreciation. But I got it like all day,
the whole time.
I just recommend all of you guys do that. Doesn't even have to be with a romantic partner.
It could be about yourself.
It's about yourself. Totally. I love that exercise. But every once in a while, if I'm feeling myself and my brain start to get like fixated on flaws or what's not working or something, I'm always like, I think it's time for a love brainstorm, because you'll find it. Whatever evidence you're looking for, you'll find it.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, and that's like, our brains are going to do that. It's sort of like our brains are going to try to fix it or try to find problems. And it's our job to like, just redirect them, which is like a powerful way to self-coach, a powerful way to ground yourself in what you know is true and what you want. Like, no, this is the partner that I want. This is actually, so I'm not going to let my brain create this story. There's something wrong with him.
Yeah. And exactly. And I said to him, you know, I had suggested, being in this mastermind, we're surrounded by all these amazing coaches, and we're like, I want to hire all of them. And I was talking to him about how, wouldn't it be cool for us to hire like a marriage coach or a sex coach? And he was kind of offended by this idea, right? Like, no, that's what you do when something's wrong. There's something wrong. And I was like, no. And I just said, like, do you actively think about loving me? Or it's just like, I was just like curious how you think about it, because it seems so effortless for you to love me, even when I'm hormonal and crazy or whatever it is. And he was like, I don't think so. And I was like, because here, what I found, you've never been in a relationship for 10 years and I have. And I think just naturally, it doesn't matter how well matched you are, your brain, with 10 years of letting your brain just try and focus on the problems, and your brain will accumulate that evidence. And then it becomes harder and harder to like find the positive evidence.
The good. You have to, it's a lift. You have to do the lift to find it. And
exactly. So I was like, let's do it now so that we just get our brain into that habit. And he was like, oh, okay. And I could see him like be open to it. But I do think that it's easy to be naive in the beginning of a relationship, that your brain, that you could have a perfect partner that that will exclude you from having.
That I don't have to do this work of finding love because we just have so much love.
Yes.
It's like, we just have so much love. It's going to last forever.
It feels that way now.
That way.
And we've been together for almost 3 years now. And like, we've been through a lot together, and I just feel like it just gets better and better. Honestly, it just gets better and better. And we do karaoke together. That's like our thing. We're singers. Our first like 20 dates were like karaoke. And we were always singing in the car, like blasting show tunes. Like we love our karaoke. But yeah, I will say, do the work now, do it on yourself now if you're not yet in a relationship, and then you can apply that practice to anyone that you start dating.
Oh my gosh, Jessica, thank you so much for sharing all of this. We didn't get to your dating journey. We for sure have to do that. There will be more podcast episodes. Really appreciate you. Congratulations on the wedding coming up in 2 weeks. Congratulations on the baby in a couple of months.
Oh, I know. We'll do our next episode with like parenting plus
all of it,
plus dating, all of that.
Yeah. But tell the listeners real quick where they can find you on the internet in case they want to look you up right away and follow you, get on your email list.
Yes. So I am most present on Instagram. I hang out over there at What's Happening WJess. So that's not a real word happening. It's HAPPYNINGWJess. So
absolutely. I will link all of it up in the show notes. You can click on it, follow Jessica, follow her story, follow her wedding and the baby.
And if you're also just a podcaster and you're like, no, I don't do that Instagram garbage. I also have a podcast called Sincerely Future You, which you guys can check out, which is really just about building your future from your future. And yes, it's geared towards entrepreneurs, but all of the topics are something that you can apply, even to dating.
Absolutely. So. Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate you being here. Listeners, I want to thank you for your time and attention, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to SadeCurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.